From baby races and bustling Toronto streets to bats being drafted for World War II and an emperor who challenged the ocean's gods. History isn't always about the big, grand narratives. Sometimes it's about the strange, quirky, and downright hilarious side stories that leave us as an unforgettable mark. Buckle up for a ride through history's craziest story on this special episode. This is Casual History. What is up, casual historians? All right, so I've got good news and bad news. The good news is Jeffrey is back officially in the States. Thank goodness. I'm glad to have him back for more episodes and continue this awesome show for you guys. The bad news is he came back a little bit underneath the weather. In fact, he even has COVID. So unfortunately, as much as he wanted to make the episode today, he was unable to hop on due to he might sound like a snuffling mess. So that's totally okay. So I've decided instead of, you guys waiting a whole nother week for another episode, which I wasn't going to do that to you. I've decided I'm going to do a special episode today of really like 3 short stories. And I tried to pick the craziest ones that I could find. So I'm really excited to kind of share these with you and walk through this. So I appreciate you being here, and let's just hop right into this thing. All right, so our first story is the Great Stork Derby, Toronto's most bizarre race. So picture this, Toronto in the 1930s, a time when people flocked to radio broadcasts, jazz was all the rage, and the city was abuzz with talk of a baby-making race. That's right, this isn't this like plot of a zany comedy, it's a wild chapter from history. So every tale needs a mischievous orchestrator, and our story is Charles Vance Miller. He wasn't just any wealthy lawyer. No, Miller was a man with an impish grin and a penchant for elaborate pranks. He saw his life as a game, and as he was his playful referee. In 1936, Miller's demise was met with a citywide gasp when his last will and testament was unveiled. No, he wasn't donating to a university or a building or even a monument. Instead, he had set the stage for the most epic challenge Toronto had ever seen. His massive fortune would go to the woman who could, quite literally, birth the most victories in the next decade. Suddenly, the city was transformed into a baby-making battleground. Competing in the Stork Derby wasn't just about, the obvious, There were strategies to consider. Some women paired up with obstetricians, ensuring priority in bustling maternity wards. Others took to superstitions, hoping for those lucky twins or even jackpot triplets. It wasn't just the competitors who were on edge. The entire city was hooked. Newspapers ran weekly leaderboards, drawing comparison to horse races. Miss Thompson pulls ahead with a pair of twins. Underdog Miss Rodriguez surprises with her 7th in 7 years. Reporters were often camped outside hospitals, awaiting the news of the latest arrivals. As the years sped by, frontrunners emerged, only to be overtaken by dark horses. Tales of rivalry, camaraderie, and even sabotage became the stuff of local legends. Every birth was a potential game changer. The closing bell of the Derby ran in 1946. The result, an unprecedented 4-way tie. 4 women, each with 9 children birthed in 10 years, stood at the finish line. The city cheered and the world watched in astonishment, and the inheritance was divvied up. The Great Stork Derby is more than just a quirky footnote. It is a testament to human tendency and the allure of wealth and the lengths people will go to for a challenge. As far as Miller, somewhere beyond the veil, he was probably chuckling, satisfied with the ruckus he had orchestrated. From the baby-crammed streets of Toronto, we now take a leap into the intense research chambers of World War II. Just when you thought history couldn't get any weirder, we have a tale that just might fly past your expectations. Yep, that's right. You all guessed it. World War II bat bombers. Yep, I bet you didn't have that on your history bingo card. So, to get started with this story, it starts in the 1940s, an era dominated by global conflict. Desperate times called for desperate measures, but amongst all the blueprints for tanks, planes, and ships, there was one plan that stood out, not because of its military genius, but because of its sheer battiness. Oh, the puns, the puns. Um, Dr. Lytle S. Adams wasn't your typical wartime strategist. This Pennsylvania dentist might have been more accustomed to extracting molars than devising military strategies. But a trip to New Mexico's Carlsbad Caverns ignited an idea that was, well, explosive. Why not use bats as bombers? Each bat could be armed with a pint-sized incendiary device released from an airplane. These bats would then roost in the eaves and attics of enemy buildings. Timed to detonate, the ensuing fires could inflict severe damage, especially in a city like Tokyo with primarily wooden architecture. The concept seems sound, but in real-world application, that's where things got interesting. During one test, a bat managed to get itself lodged underneath a fuel tank at Carlsbad Army Airfield Base. The result? An inferno, of course, and the red faces all around. While the Bat Bomber project soared in imagination, reality had pulled it back down. By 1944, after spending a respectable budget and much enthusiasm, the project was shelved in favor of a slightly more impactful explosive, the atomic bomb. In the grand theater of war, not all actors make it to the main stage. Some are like our valiant bat bombers, remaining in the wings, a testament to the quirky extents of human innovation, and it makes you wonder, in the annals of history, what other wild ideas are just waiting to be uncovered? So from bats in the sky, we now travel back to old Rome. Here in the city of stone and busy streets, one young leader did something that made everyone's jaw drop. And even me, when I was reading this story, could not believe that this actually happened. So Rome was a place filled with stories about brave heroes and sneaky plans. But one story about Emperor Caligula stands out because it's just so weird, I guess, for lack of a better word. When Caligula became the boss of Rome, people had high hopes. They thought he would be a great leader, but soon they started hearing strange tales about things he was doing. Word on the street is that Caligula took his army and the strongest fighters in Rome to the beach. But they weren't there to fight enemies or go on a trip. No, they were there because Caligula wanted to challenge the sea. That's right, you heard me. He had a war with the sea. So at the beach, with the sound of waves and birds, Caligula told his soldiers to throw their spears into the water. It was like he was trying to pick a fight with the sea itself. It looked like one big, large show with Caligula in the center of it all. So after this strange fight, Caligula even said and actually turned with a straight face and told his men that they had won. What was their prize? Not gold or jewels, but seashells. They picked up the shells as if they were precious treasures and took them back to Rome. This odd beach day became the talk of the town. People in the city chatted about it, laughed about it, and couldn't even believe it. It became one of those stories that even if you didn't see it, you just had to share. Caligula's time as leader had many twists and turns, but this day at the beach challenged the waves, and collecting seashells as a prize was a story that the people of Rome could never forget. It showed that history isn't just about big battle and important talks. Sometimes it's just plain funny. As we pull the curtains on our journey through history's oddities, it's clear. From baby races to bat bombers and a fight with the actual sea itself, our past is as whimsical as it is profound. So here's the stories that remind us to take a moment to chuckle and marvel at the ever-surprising weirdness of history. Until next time, guys, thank you so much for listening. This has been Casual History.